Thank you for watching the TDC Hot Rods YouTube channel.
In this video, we are putting 3/4 ton Dana 60s under a 1984 soon-to-be Duramax swap single cab short bed Chevy. All right, what we have here is front axle out of a, I believe, 2001 Dodge 2500. 3/4 ton, so it's Dana 60. It still has the actuator on it, which kind of is a bummer because I thought I was getting one without it, but we'll worry about that later. Well, what this thing is going in is a 84 single cab short bed half ton Chevy. What is that, a K10 for sure? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. That we are putting a LBZ Duramax in and Allison. So we're putting 3/4 ton axles front and back with the Duramax and Allison, and it's going to be amazing. I am super excited for this project. I've been excited for a long time. This thing's been here a very long time, but work just hasn't worked out for me to work on it. Anyways, don't need to hear that. You're here to see what I'm doing to this. So what we got is this 01 front end, and we're keeping the leaf springs underneath the pickup. So what we got to do is come in here and cut off all of this factory stuff, coil mounts and trailing arm or radius arm mounts off of the axle. So we're going to come in here and cut all of these welds here, and I'm going to cut them on top of this weld. I'll torch them off or plasma cut it. And then be real careful to grind it down because we don't want to hurt the housing. And when all of that is off, then we'll clean it all up, make it look all pretty and nice, because we're putting we're using the factory leaf springs. Well, the funny thing about that is the center of the Chevy leaf springs, so these are leaf spring pads. These aren't actually leaf spring pads. I think these are bump stops pads, but leaf spring pads look similar. Is this edge from here to here is 32 inches. Well, that is exactly center to center of the Chevy leaf springs. So what I'm going to do is just come in here and build a bracket, or a mount that comes off of this, a pad, and then weld it back down to the axle tube there. And same with this. We'll bring it over and then weld it back down to the axle tube over there. But I am going to incorporate it into these factory pads. And then we'll have to put notch outs for U-bolts and stuff like that, and drill a hole over here for a U-bolt. Anyways, we'll get to all that. But for now, we are going to start cutting this thing all apart so we can get it prepped so I can get her put in the truck. That is definitely easier than the Ford ones. I've never cut down a Dodge one. Definitely easier than the like 05 and up Fords, but definitely still not a piece of cake. But not too bad. But that's what it used to look like. Look at that contraption. And then there's that. All I gotta do is grind it down, and I stayed away from it far enough to not touch or hurt the housing because we don't want to guard. I know the housing, I think these housings are like 3/8 thick or something, but I know that's not to be an issue, but I still want it to be nice. So now time to do this one, but I'll show you guys when I'm all done cutting this off and cleaning it all up. All right, there we go. Got a pile of junk. Gets go in the scrap yard. And we got a cleaned up axle. Cleaned up really nice. Very nice, actually. No big gouges anywhere. Oh, that's still a little bit warm. But I'm going to eventually paint this whole thing. But before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to touch that up with a little bit of paint. just to make sure it doesn't rust. I know it's rusted here, but just to slow it down, because eventually I'll paint the whole thing. But there you go. Just the only thing I have to say is, if you're doing this, just try to be real careful when you're cutting it to make sure that you don't gouge into the axle anywhere. That wouldn't be good. And make sure you always wear your safety gear. But it's late. Look how dark it is out there. And my neighbors, pretty awesome actually. But anyways, I'm gonna go to bed. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, what we have here is the donor truck. It is a 07, I believe. I probably should double check that, but pretty sure it's an 07 four-door short bed. Anyways, that part doesn't really matter. We're gonna use the engine, tranny, transfer case, wiring harness, the electronic shift for the four-wheel drive, and a bunch of other random stuff. But the most important part for this right here is we are using this hefty bean of a rear axle. I'm pretty sure that's corporate 14. I may be wrong there. I should have done my research. But anyways, we're using the rear axle out of this thing. So that's what I need to get to now, is get to taking this thing all apart. I did soak all the bolts in hopes that it'll come off, but it's 2024, this is an 07, so that bad boy may not come off, but it did spend most of its life in the Nevada dry desert, so hopefully I can just zip everything apart. If not, I guess we're pulling the torch out. So I'm gonna get to pulling this rear axle out of here and see what all we can make happen. We got it out. And I just gotta say, that truck was definitely from dry area Nevada. Look, U-bolts all came out. No rust on them. Well, obviously surface rust, but no bad rust. Like the impact took them right off like they were just put on yesterday. That's impressive. If that truck, especially for how many miles are on it, if that truck sat in Utah the whole time with salt, wouldn't work out that way. Anyways, we got it all off. So, I got the axle sitting here on the jack stands. I got the perch leveled out on both sides. I do need to pull the tires and wheels off. But what I got to do is come in here. I was going to buy new ones, but these ones are so tall and so beefy, I absolutely want to reuse them. So I'm going to come in here and cut these. Just like the front axle, we want to make sure that we don't nick the tube. But I'm gonna come in here and cut these off. I do have to take these perches off for the bump stops. And then we gotta move these perches in and set them about in this area. I'll double and triple check that measurement, but that's where they gotta go. And then I'll weld them back on in the same orientation they are, just narrower. So then they will fit underneath the 84 square body. So that's what I'm gonna do now, is we're gonna get to torching those off and cleaning everything up. There we go. We got the plates so these were here roughly, and then there was the little bump stop plates, and I got those all cut off and ground down and cleaned up, moved over. They are finished up. Just word of caution, if you're doing this and you're going to weld do any kind of welding on an axle, always put your ground as close as you're gonna weld, because there's a bearing here and there, and you don't want the ground arcing through the bearing and ruining it. But there we go. So next thing is I'm gonna get the square body in here, and we'll get the axles cut out of it and get this in there. All right, we got the square body in the shop. It's looking a little sad right now, but that ain't gonna last for too long. So what we got here is an 84 single cab short bed, half ton, 4-wheel drive. Factory came with a 6.2 and automatic. But at some time in its life, it got switched over to a 305 or a 350, small block Chevy. Anyways, so that is what come out of it. And there's nothing in it right now. She's empty. It's actually, look, well, let's look at this side. This side looks a little bit better. Look at that. Doesn't that look so much better? Stinking flat tires made it look real sad. But it's the lucky candidate for the Duramax swap. Super excited. So what we're gonna do now is, well, there's lots of things. So I wanted to get the axles underneath it, so then when I do pull the Duramax out of the 07 and I put it in this one, then I have a good idea of where everything will be. Steering, axle stuff, shocks. I just want everything. I want to know that when I build the motor mounts, everything is where I want it to be. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna put the rear tire on that front corner over there, because tonight we are putting a rear axle in. So that's what we're gonna do here, is jack it up, cut this axle out. This one, I am confident that those poor U-bolts aren't coming out. So it's getting a liquid wrench taken to them. Look at that little baby axle, cute little thing. Might as well cut the exhaust off while we're down here. Anyways, so that's what we're gonna start with. We're gonna start by getting rear axle put in, and then we'll move on to the front. But we're gonna take the easy road and do the rear one first. So I'm gonna get to it. And whoever it was that invented the liquid wrench, I'd like to shake their hand. I know they're dead, I'm sure, long gone, way before my time, but made pulling that thing way easy. So now we got the rear axle out. I do got to reuse these blocks, so I'm going to take a wire brush and clean that up and clean up all this and this surface, so then everything sits nice and flush. We are eventually going to paint everything, but for now we're just gonna get everything all mocked up. And so I'm gonna take a wire brush to that and then get that out of here and bring the new axle in and get it put under there and go get the new U-bolts and put it all together. So let's get to it. There we go. Now, I don't have the brake lines and e-brake cable hooked up yet because I want to use this is the original drop bracket for the square body. I want to use the original brackets for the 07 and then tie it into that one right there, which is the factory square body one. That way, we can use factory brake lines, e-brake stuff all the way through. But I need to get that part off the 07. And then we'll figure out the shocks and stuff. But for now, we'll be able to roll it around. And I just gotta get the front axle underneath it. And also, I left the U-bolts pretty long hanging out the bottom there, you can see. And that's in just so then after the front end gets underneath it, I don't know where that's gonna put it height-wise. So like right now, it's a little bit higher in the front and there's not even an engine and tranny in there. So once when we get a Duramax in there, obviously that's gonna go down quite a bit. So I don't know exactly how that's gonna play height-wise for the back. So I wanna leave it long so then we can have some adjustability there. And whatever the owner decides to, he might want to lift it, he might want to level it. We'll let him make that decision. But I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what the plan is with this truck. So as of right now, the plan is LBZ Duramax with the Allison and the transfer case, and as much of the stuff out of that we can possibly use. The owner would like to have the push button 4-wheel drive put in here, and he had a killer idea. I absolutely love it. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do it yet, but I'm definitely up for the challenge. He always thought it would be super cool to have the back glass be able to roll up and down. So I would have to build some kind of track system inside the cab so that window could roll up and down, which I thought would be super sweet. And then I think he wants to paint it green, dark green. He'll let me know when he sees this if I'm wrong. But yeah, anyways, so basically as much of the 07 stuff as we can in here, except for the front axle, that is like 01 Dodge. This thing ought to turn on a dime. Single cab short bed with a Dodge front that already turns sharper than any of the others. So that's gonna be super sweet. And with it being the Dodge front, there's no locking hubs. So he should be able to just push the 4-wheel drive button, engage the transfer case, and hopefully he never gets it stuck. But anyways, so it is late once again. So I'm gonna go in and then come back out and we're gonna work on the front axle with this thing. But super stoked to have some progress. So I will see you guys in just a second. All right, so I've done a ton of work on the axle, and I'll just show you guys what all I did. So originally it had this perch here and this one here. Well, in order to feel safe about where the leaf spring needs to ride, and in order for there to be plenty of space for the alignment dowels, I took 1/4-inch plate and extended this side. This side was actually the easy one. This one was no question to me, I guess. Also, I measured from the center of the axle here to the top of this plate perch, and same with this one. And this was about 30 seconds away from being 1/4 of an inch shorter than the driver's side. So what I ended up doing here was just coming up the side and over the top, and now they're the same height, which is super awesome. So a leaf spring will come around here. I mean a U-bolt, not a leaf spring. A U-bolt will come here and there, and I also, you can see right here, where I notched this, so then the U-bolt can't slide back and forth. And then on this side, it actually worked out perfect that there's this factory little notch there, which is super awesome. Capped off the actuator. And then this side is where all the complicated part came in, and I just couldn't quite figure out what all I wanted to do. Originally, I was gonna do something like this, up the side and over the top, and then do the 70s Chevy style where it has 2 bolts that come in from the top. So you'd have 1 U-bolt here and 2 bolts that go down. And I just couldn't, I thought of all kinds of ways, couldn't quite come up with something I felt super confident in to make it nice and strong. So I'm gonna do what everybody else does when these bolts strip out on the old Chevys. And that is run a U-bolt here, and then run a big U-bolt here, all the way around, down, there you can see my notch there, and then come up the front side here. So this U-bolt will actually be really wide. So the top perch I gotta build, I mean the plate, the U-bolt plate. I'll have to build a custom U-bolt plate, but I think that's gonna work super awesome. Yeah, so now I got a 2001 Dodge front axle that is capable of going in a square body Chevy. So I think it's gonna be pretty darn sweet. What I gotta do, there's one thing I would like to do. So if this U-bolt comes along here and then goes up, I'm concerned that when I tighten the top, it might try to bend this U-bolt up. And I don't want that. I want to make sure this is plenty strong. So my plan is I have 3 of the U-bolts already, but this U-bolt I don't. So I gotta order that. When it shows up, I'll slide it up in place here, and then I'm to build just a 1/4-inch plate perch basically that'll just come down, just a little small one, so then it doesn't fold that up when you tighten it up, and it'll be plenty strong. Lots of modifications here, but I think it's gonna be super awesome. I think it's gonna work absolutely fantastic. So I'm gonna go inside and order a U-bolt right now, and the next time you guys see me, I'll be putting a front axle under a square body. All right, well, it's just sitting there, but look at that, there it is. So the last time I had showed you guys axle, I believe, because that was literally 2 weeks ago, I had all of the mounts done, but what I didn't have done, so I did get my U-bolt, my big fancy U-bolt, but I wanted to build a support, so I built this. So I put this support here. So now when the U-bolt comes up in here, when I tighten it up, this part of the U-bolt won't try to bend like right there. And I also put this stop in so it doesn't try to slide up the axle. I think that's gonna work really good. It's definitely gonna be super strong if anything. So what else? Oh, so this, I'm not saying that the sway bar won't work. It's not gonna work right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the sway bar off, but these plates 100% won't work. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the sway bar off, and then I have this plate over here that is going to be super fun to drill and cut and work with, but that is going to be what I'm going to build the new upper plates. And this one is going to have skinnier holes here, actually a touch wider than this one, and then a lot wider, like the U-bolt goes like there and here. So it's going to come across and then turn. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and make those plates. I'll show you guys how I do that, and then we can bolt this thing up in there. We'll finally have Dana 60 underneath this sweet rig. So I'm gonna get to it. Well, there we go. I think they turned out pretty darn awesome. We got both sides done, this one and this one, which this side was the hardest in every aspect of the whole entire axle. But you see, my idea there worked out real sweet. Worked out super awesome. I am still gonna cut these off and paint everything, yada yada. But yeah, so these are all done. And I don't know if I'll be able to put the sway bar back in here, but I would like to be able to put sway bar back in if it'll clear everything. I think that'd be a smart idea. So that being said, with these plates being thick enough, just like, let's look at this here, I'll do a mount, something very similar to that. And be able to put the sway bar back on, which would be super super awesome. Anyways, I'm super stoked about that. So I'm gonna get some tires and wheels, just like those ones, put on there. And there we go. Finally on its own four wheels again. This thing has been on its four wheels recently, but not soon enough. Oh, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, super stoked. Super stoked. Got the all the mounts made. I have some ideas for the steering. That's going to be in a separate video because that's going to be a fun project. But I got a few ideas there. It actually looks better than I thought it would on these wheels. But yeah, super awesome. Going to be even more awesome when this thing has a Duramax in it and we're cruising down the road. But that is going to be it for this video. It is going to be a series of Duramax swapping this square body Chevy. And I'm going to try to make as much video as possible. Anything that I think somebody will want to see that could be learning to help them with their project. Yeah, anyways, I just want to say thanks for watching. I will see you on the next one, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Remember, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Yeah, anyways, you guys have a great one. We'll see you on the next one.